Welcome back to Phillips Hot Rod Garage. All right guys, let's just get right into it. It's time to get some work done on the 32 frame that's going under the 28 coupe. All right, so I got a set of frame rails here from JW Garage, a set of 32 reproduction rails. I'd rather have a set of original rails, of course, but they're hard to find in my area, so reproduction it is. Those are going under this car right here. So a couple of years ago I built this jig to put these frame rails up on, and I was going to try to use that to build out the frame, but that jig is just going to prove to be too small. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and extend it, as in make the jig a little longer. So what we're going to do is make the frame jig about 12 feet long, and we're going to make it a little bit wider. Now I just picked up some metal right here that I got last week, and it's been sitting out for quite a while, so it has some rust on it, and I spent a pretty good bit of time over the past couple of days getting it cleaned up and ready to use. I didn't get all the rust off, but there's no reason to. I just had to get it down to where it was usable for what we're about to use it for. So I got it all cleaned up, I got it ready to go. Let me get it all unloaded off of the top of this set of rails here, and then I'm going to show you exactly what we're going to do to get this jig ready to tack these rails in place. Alright, so these 12-foot long pieces are going to weld right here on top of the jig, right along here. So that means I got to get those out of the way, and I got to move these rails as well. Alright, so this is the part that I don't want to do. I don't want to have to move these rails because they fit the body quite well. As you might remember from some past videos, if you've been following the channel, these frame rails fit the body pretty nice. I've already had the body on the frame, on the jig. I've already done a lot of measuring and got it all squared up. But unfortunately, the frame jig's not going to get extended without moving them, so just going to have to start over on the setup. Alright, so I got 3 pieces of angle iron clamped across the frame rails, so hopefully they won't move around too much. The next thing to do is go ahead and clean up the tops of these rails. I'm going to have to hit them with a grinder because it's been a while since I've messed with this thing, and it's got some rust on there starting to build up. So let's go ahead and get it clean. All right, so now for a quick wipe down with OSPO to keep it from rusting again. All right, so let's get these 12-foot pieces stuck up on here now. See how this is going to work out. All right. We're going to have to measure these things and see where we're at here. All right, we're 21 inches from the back. And we're about 33 1/4 from the front. So let's move them. Or move this one anyway. $30. 24. Got to go 3 more inches. All right, 27. And 27 and an 8. That's close enough for right this minute. We'll do some fine tuning here in just a little bit. All right, that's pretty close to 27 on that end. A little bit over on this end. Close enough for right now. All right, what's next? Well, the next thing I had to do was get my welder out of storage. This thing has not been used in quite a while, so let me get it hooked up because we've got to tack these in place. All right, so I got these both set at 27 1/4 inches from the front of the jig on both sides. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and clamp them in place right here so they don't move around, so we can check for squareness. All right, so I am talking myself into being okay with everything being within 1/2 degree. So if I'm within 0.5 degrees, I'm gonna call it good on everything on this jig. I am somewhat of a perfectionist, so I've got to convince myself that if I don't accept the fact that everything is not always gonna be perfect, that I'll never get this thing done. So the goal is to get everything within 1/2 degree. I think that will be close enough. All right, so I got this piece stuck up here, but before I go into trying to square this up, I might better check the width of these from front to back to make sure that they're completely parallel with each other. So let's do that. .43, and it looks like 5/8. All right, let's check the back. That's only 43 3/8. So that means the front has to close up a little bit. It's a little too wide at the front. Let's check it again. .43 7/16. Let's check the back. Yes, 43 7/16. It's really close. Yep, 43 7/16. All right, so now I'm going to check these corners, see if they're square. Very close. It was a tad off, so made a small adjustment there. That's perfect on this side. Very close on this side. Very close. I'd call that as close to perfect as we're going to get, so I think it's safe to go ahead and tack weld these pieces in place. All right, so there's a whole lot of rust on here, so I really don't know how it's going to weld. Hopefully it'll weld pretty good. We're going to give it a try. Yep, that did pretty good. Let's go to the other side. let's get the back welded here. All right, that should get it. All right, let's weld the middle now. Oh, that was the wrong thing to do. So now that I've got these pieces tacked in place to where they're not going to move, it's time to start fitting these cross pieces. All right, so I had to go up to the house and print out some drawings. I got these from Westcott's Auto Restyling. These drawings have been used to build a lot of hot rods. So you get online, you'll find a lot of people using these drawings. Now this is the layout for a factory 32 car or truck. This is what the 32 frame would have originally looked like. And this is the layout of the frame when you are what we call pinching the frame to fit a 28 through 31 Model A body. Now there's a few differences in them, mainly the width of the frame here at the firewall. Let me get in here where you can see it. 28-29, it's 30 1/4, and then a 30-31, it's 32 right there. And then if you come over here to this drawing on a factory 32, they're not really clear what the measurement is across there. It says it's 32. So maybe the 30-31 is the same as the 32, but the 28-29, which is what I have, is 30 1/4 across there. Now I'm not going to use this measurement. I'm going to use this for a reference. And then what I'm going to do is narrow mine up to match the cowl of the car the way I want it to fit. But these are going to be some numbers that I use just for reference for getting all those braces put on my jig. Now what I've got to do is I got to figure out how many of these measuring points that I want to use to lay out my braces. So if we go with one at the front so I can establish the width of the spreader bar, and then I go with one here at the firewall, then I skip one, or maybe just go down to right here. This is the widest point of the frame right here. So if I go there, that would be 1, 2, 3, and then one back here at the back would make 4. So we're going to start with 4. I don't know, we might be able to fit 5 in there. I think I probably got enough to actually do 6. I don't know how many of these we're going to put in there yet. Let's just throw them up on the jig and see how they look, and then we will go from there. So now that these pieces are welded, I'm just going to loosen these clamps up so I can shift this thing side to side a little bit and get it centered up here. I haven't measured it, but I know I just stuck it up there by eye, so I know I didn't have it dead on. 6 1/2, 8. So what's the difference? 1 1/2. So we need to move it 3/4 of an inch. So if I go to 7 1/4, it should be right. Didn't want to move. Seven 1/4. 7 1/4. That's good right there. So I'm gonna clamp them back now. Well, actually, I got to get my square. That's just right. Let's make it happen. All right, so let's go ahead and put one across the back here. Now when I get this one put in place and everything is square, then all I have to do then is just fit the ones in the middle wherever I decide to put them. All right, where's my tape? All right, 7 3/16. 7 3/16. We're good there. Let's measure from front to back. I'm gonna go 12 feet with these. 12 feet. Why? Because that's how long the material was that I bought. I bought a 24-foot piece of this, cut it in half. So really no rhyme or reason for it other than it's what I had to work with. So that's it. 12 feet on both sides. So I'm gonna go ahead and take and measure my squareness now. Close. Close. I think it's good enough to weld right there. All right, so let's take a couple of measurements just to make sure that everything is still good. Now this should be 12 feet from one end to the other on both sides. And it's pretty close to 12 feet. Same thing here, right at 12. Now when I built this jig originally, I put these two pieces of angle iron. Let's see, this is probably 1.5 inch angle. I put right here on the side, on each side as a place to measure from when I was fabricating. Just gives me a constant place on each side to measure from. If I always measure from this, when I'm pulling measurements, then I'll always have everything just right. It's a consistent point of measure. So I'm going to go from here to the front and see where we're at. It's 107 dead on. Hopefully on this side it's 107 dead on. It should be. And it is 107 dead on. I should find the same thing back here. 37 1/8. .37 1/8. So we're good. Now, some people would say you need to cross measure, check squareness. Well, in the grand scheme of things, all this thing has to be really is just level. Because the frame rails themselves, when you put them on here, the frame rails themselves will be what you measure squareness on, not the jig itself. So when we tack the rails down to the jig, we'll make sure they're perfect, and it doesn't matter what happens with the jig itself. But having a bit of an obsessive compulsive disorder, my OCD kicks in and I want everything to be perfect. So I think I will do a cross measure just for the fun of it. It probably will end up being a tad off, not gonna matter, but I just want to do it for the fun of it, just to see where we're at. So we are at 153 and 5/8. This is going to be interesting to see how close I got it. Hopefully it's perfect, but I do have my doubts. Not many things in life end up being 100% perfect, just like this measuring tape that I have nobody to help me hold. Not a perfect scenario. Doing it the hard way, guys. All right. $153 and 3/4. That's 153 and 5/8. That is a difference of 1/8. That's 1/16. Because you have to divide the 8 in half to know how far you're out of square. 1/16. Doing this by myself with no help, I don't think there's any way to get any closer than 1/16. So definitely not going to complain about that at all. So the next thing to do is to get started laying out the pieces in the middle, and then we'll be ready to put the frame rails back on here and start getting them ready to tack in place. So I'm pretty tired tonight. I think that I'm going to take off right there and go to the house, get a shower, cleaned up. Tomorrow's Saturday. I'll come out here tomorrow sometime and see if I can get this finished up and finish this video up for you guys. Let me go get some rest. All right, so I'm back. I got me some rest last night, and I got up this morning and actually took my little boy to a car show. We had a little car show here in town this morning, so we went and checked that out. 0.1 degrees right there. 0.1 right there. 0.3. And 0.1, so everything's within half a degree. Everything's 0.1 except for right up there, so maybe a little shim under that wheel will fix that problem. But we're going to carry on. We're within a half a degree, which was my goal. All right, so it's 92 degrees today in South Alabama. Normally I'm videoing at night with the doors down, because if you video at night with the doors up, the lights are so bright that it just attracts all the bugs, and the bugs just take you over. So we got the doors up today, letting a little sunshine in, got the fan going, trying not to sweat to death out here. So hopefully the light coming in won't make the video quality be too bad. We're going to give it a try. All right, so I just got this piece put on. So we're going to go over here to the diagram, figure out where we want to weld it. Let's see. We're going to be right here where it says 43.5. So centered of this bolt hole is where I want to put this one. So that means I've got to add 14 and 7/16, 32, 25, 15 3/4, 11 1/4 together. And that measurement is 98 and 11/16. But first we've got to find the center of this piece. This is 3 inches, so the center is, of course, 1.5. Okay. We got to go forward quite a bit here. Five and 1/4, 5 1/4. We're good there. Let's weld it. All right, so here comes the fun part. Now I got to get the frame rails back up on here by myself. So let's go ahead and move this thing so I can get around it to work with it here. Yeah, it's a good thing that arthritis has been feeling better lately, because I've sure been putting a strain on myself on this project. Where's all my buddies that are supposed to be hanging out with me? Well, I got my buddy Eric. He hangs out with me sometimes. I do appreciate that, but I need a few more buddies to hang out with me. Philip's Hot Rod Garage is kind of a lonely place sometimes. All I got is me and these old hot rods and all you guys out there on YouTube. And I do appreciate you watching, and what I'd like for you to do, if you would, take the time to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Click like on the video if you haven't already, and leave a comment and leave a thumbs up. All that makes a difference with YouTube. So yeah, just go do it now. Look right down there on the bottom of the screen. You'll see it says PHRG right down at the bottom right. Click right there and you can subscribe to the channel. Absolutely free. All right, 16 from each side. Now I've got these frame rails set at 22 inches, but they're supposed to be at 23 3/4. And the reason for that is I've got them narrowed to fit the cowl of the 28-29 Model A. But what's got to happen is I've got to leave them at the width they are at the cowl, and I've got to actually spread them back open at the front so that the spreader bar will fit back in. Or they do make shorter spreader bars, or I could make a custom spreader bar. So I got to decide what to do with this portion right here. So that's one of the things that'll be upcoming in some upcoming videos. 5 7/8 and 6. So we only got to move a 1/16. All right, 5 15 16. All right, 5 15 16. We are good. Now I've also got this thing narrowed back here as well from the original 32 measurements. This is 41 3/4 and it's supposed to be 43 1/2. But what I did was I narrowed this up so that the kick up would fit up inside the rear wheel wells, and that's another common thing to do when you're putting Model A bodies on these frames. So I think we need to go ahead and put some clamps on here so it doesn't move around, and then we'll work on a couple more of these braces. All right, so the next cross brace I've decided I'm going to put right here because the frame is flat from right in this area back to where that brace is right there. So I can't go any further forward of this because this is not on a flat plane anymore right along here. So I'm going to go ahead and put a brace right here. Now there's a bolt hole right here on the top of the frame, right above, just behind where it turns up. So this will be the perfect spot. So let's go over there to the diagram and see what the measurement is to that bolt hole. All right, so looking at the drawing here, we see that from the end of the frame to the bolt hole right here that we're looking for is 55 and 13/16. It doesn't tell you, but you got to add all these together to come up with that measurement, but it's 55 and 13/16. All right, so let's slide a piece in here. All right, so we're making major progress here. Now I went ahead and added enough length to the jig to compensate for a 32 frame with the rear fuel tank in place. I cut these off, these ends of these rails off, because I don't plan on using the 32 tank under my car, but I went ahead, set the jig up just in case I decide to. I can weld these pieces back in place. So that's the reason why it's a little bit longer back here. If I decide I want to get another set of rails and build a frame for another car in the future, my jig will already be ready to go. All right, so what's the point in what we're doing? We've got to change the shape of this frame to match the shape of the 28-29 Model 8 body. So we're going to have to do some bending in this area. We're going to end up either slicing the frame or heating the frame and bending it. That means we got to have the frame securely fastened down to the jig. We're going to have to weld the rails down so they don't move. Then we're going to heat that frame up. We're going to slice it, whatever we got to do. We're going to bend these rails out at the front. So there's quite a bit of twisting and tweaking that we got to do to get this frame to where it'll line up with the 28-29 coupe body. So that's where we're at. We are making major progress on this project. It feels good to be back on this thing. It feels good to have my health back and just feel like working again. It's just been a good week. So appreciate you guys watching the video. That's going to be enough for this one. In the next one, we're going to get these rails firmly attached to this jig and go ahead and put the body back up on the frame so we can set the dimensions that we want the frame to sit at. We're going to get the final dimensions because we're going to go ahead and start working with the cross members, and we're going to go ahead and start building out the suspension. I've got a 57 Ford 9-inch rear that's going to go up under here. I've got a set of 35, 36 rear radius rods that I'm going to put on here. If I don't change my mind, I thought about using possibly a Pete and Jake's style rear ladder bar setup. I may do that. I may make my own ladder bars. I've got to get my head wrapped around that. I've about decided what axle I want to use on the front. So we're going to get a dropped axle for the front. I already got the cross member to go here in the front. So we got a lot to do. And I decided to shift gears a little bit on you guys. We've been working on the body of the car quite a bit in the last many videos that I had before I got sick and stopped working on the car for a while. But I decided that I wanted to make some major progress on this car and make some progress in a short period of time. So you guys are going to start seeing some videos come out where we're going to be getting some serious work done. So that's where we're going to leave this one. Appreciate you guys watching. As I said before, like, subscribe. Check me out on Instagram. Look up Phillips Hot Rod Garage. You'll find me. Check me out on Facebook. Phillips Hot Rod Garage on Facebook. Email me at phillipshotrodgarage@gmail.com. All those links are down in the description under the video. The subscribe button's down at the bottom right in the video. Let's see, what else do I need to tell you guys? Hey, have a good week. I'll see you again probably next week with another video. Appreciate you guys watching.